Well, hello, boys.
Yo, Travis, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Very good. Good to hear your voice.
Adam Nixon.
What's happening? It's great. Coming off a real fun Friday. Travis and I played
pickleball
a pickleball tournament.
I heard there were some killer pickleball players.
Yeah, there was like some undercover semi-pro, perhaps fully pro.
Tell them what you said about like
It's the commercial
after
guys.
that round. It was the first round we played, and they destroyed us.
Well, like we play pickleball. You know, we dabble. It's fun. We have a good time out there. And but after they played us the first time, I was like, I don't know if I've ever actually played pickleball. Like,
made us question our whole existence.
Yeah. We're pretty serious about it, I thought.
I've never played. Yeah, their paddles. I mean, speaking of mortgages, they had to take out a mortgage just to buy their paddles.
Yeah.
So it was, anyways,
Oh
but
my
it was
God,
still
that's
a good
great.
time nonetheless.
Yeah.
And we did beat them one game later
We did.
in the night.
Counts.
So, yeah, it counts.
It counts.
Later in the night.
So let's talk about the market, guys. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, the market's interesting. I mean, see what's
Yeah.
happening in the market with rates and, the response to raising interest rates. It's definitely a season where we're seeing some hesitancy from buyers and having to answer some tough questions. Like buyers are having to ask themselves some tough questions about the area where they're buying, the location, whether or not they think that real estate is a great investment. And we're seeing that hesitancy more and more in today's market. And also seeing people that are motivated to buy, making purchases and excited to be making purchases.
Getting good deals.
Yeah.
Maybe
So-
we level set. Adam, where should we start?
Yeah, well, and we're going to try a new format out and try to make all of our market updates kind of fit this structure, if you will. And so we're gonna walk through just some stats of where the market's at right now, and then we're also going to share some stories because we're really passionate of believing that in this whole home buying process, investment process, we're just the guides, and the clients really are the heroes of the story. So we want to make sure that we pepper in some stories. So yeah, give us feedback on what you guys think, but let's give just an overview of the market and where it's at. And we are going to lean heavily on our resource person, analytic person, Travis Avila. So
Nerd.
nerd alert. He's got a TI 83 plus out right now. It's incredible. So let's start. Interest rates. Where are they at, Travis? What's going on?
Yeah. So today, which is we're recording October 16th, 2023, year of our Lord, 7 3/4 for
Nice.
a 30-year conventional. But earlier, I think like October 6th or so, they hit 8%, which is a lot.
A lot.
But they've backed off a little bit. And interestingly, which I think we'll talk about this when we talk more about inventory, the first of the year through the summer, I think everyone thought they'd be down by this time,
Yeah, I think that was
and they've gone up.
generally the talking track of most
Yeah.
people was like, hey, yeah, interest rates are going up, but they're going to come back down. Everything's going to be hunky-dory again. I don't know if our audience remembers, but we kind of talked about that. And we had some skepticism because of like how much quantitative easing there's happened and how much spending there's happened in, since basically 2008 to now. And, we look at that, and we also look at all the, I'm going to call them COVID bucks that were distributed to people. COVID bucks. And that, there's no such thing as a free lunch. And so, you have to recoup that. And so that's what we're seeing happen with interest rates. And it's going to impact, it's really going to impact the U.S. taxpayer. But also they're trying to ease inflation through increasing the interest rates. And so,
What do you think the Fed's going to do coming up, though? I mean, you guys...
Well, we just had the first, like we said, kind of dovish Fed meeting that we've seen. They've been really bullish on increasing rates, and this is the beginning of them kind of, I think, flinching. So I'm hopeful that they will ease up a little bit.
It seems like inflation data is promising. I mean, it's heading in the right direction, so I think it's done what they want to do.
Yeah, and I think
enough, who knows?
People go to the U.S. dollar for security because it's a secure asset, or it's a liquid and secure asset. So when there's a lot of insecurity in the world, people tend to buy or get U.S. dollars and have faith in it. So because we have been kind of a beacon of security in insecure times.
Yeah, I mean, the whole time they've been talking about wanting a soft landing, and avoiding recession. And a lot of the articles I'm reading and people I'm talking to believe that might actually happen. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Time will tell, right?
Yeah.
But interest rates, they went up, not down. And I think we're at the peak, but I don't know for sure.
Let's
Don't have a
hope.
crystal ball.
Let's hope it's
yeah.
not cruising up like gas
Yeah.
prices.
My crystal ball broke. It fell off the shelf.
That's true.
In an earthquake I didn't
Just a
see.
big old
Yeah.
crack in it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's go to inventory, and Travis, can you speak to new listings and then kind of active inventory as well, and what's happening?
Yeah. So in August, we saw this really unusual thing, which was an increase in new listings, which you look at like 5-year plus. Every single year in August, you're going downward in new listing inventory because seasonally, that's just what happens. You know, spring and summer, you see more new listings, and then fall and winter, you see less. So when we saw an increase in new listings in August, there was a few different hypotheses for that. One was that sellers thought interest rates were going to go up, not down. So they were trying to get ahead of it. So they put their house on the market. And so then it was like, well, okay, well then will this continue if that's the case? And so it was interesting because then in September, we saw a pretty dramatic decline in new listings.
Clark County went from 311 new listings to 224.
Yeah, which is really just below where we were September of last year, like 10% less. So it's not like there was a huge crash.
Right.
It adjusted for what is normally a seasonal decline, right? But yeah, we thought, oh, maybe they'll continue going up in September and October. Wouldn't that be great? Because inventory is a major problem right now, right?
Yeah.
And so so yeah, that's what happened with new listings. Active is interesting because active, and we don't have all the October data yet, so we're running off September numbers, but in September, active listings went up just a little bit, but they went up. And so that's pretty interesting when you have new listings go down pretty dramatically, but active listings go up, and we'll explain why that is. But that's a scoop on inventory.
For sure. Okay. Still not where we want it to be.
Not even close.
I mean, it's pretty frustrating as an agent when you're like checking the MLS for something to sell one of your clients that really wants to buy a property, and they're like, well, it's the same 5.
I mean, they're just ready to go too.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating.
It's tough. Okay, let's jump over to how about days on market?
Okay, days on market was 12. I think you can check me, Jeff, in
I'll double check.
September. So what that measures is homes in September that went from active to pending. 12 days on market. That is fast. I mean, they say 30 days is like average or whatever, right? Or healthy. So 12 is fast. Now, the interesting thing is I then took all active listings in SLO County.
Right.
And when you look at the average days on market of all active listings in SLO County, it's 77 days. So why? I think here's what's happening. Would love you guys' opinion. I think it's all about pricing strategy, because when you price your home at or below market value, competitive, because, affordability's down, buyer interest is down from where it was, but still, I think, high.
Mm-hmm.
So when you price your home appropriately, it's going to sell.
Yeah.
But if you don't, it's going to sit. So I heard somebody say, like, well, do you want to list your home or do you want to sell your home? If you want to list it, price it at whatever you want. But if you want to sell your home, you're going to have to be, and this is a note for sellers out there, you got to be realistic with where the market is. And it's like, last year you were getting 10, 15 offers per home, almost all over asking and well over asking. And that's just not the world we're in anymore. Are we going to talk about prices? Because I think this is like, prices are holding steady though. This isn't like they've tanked at all. I mean,
yeah, there's kind of like 2 ways to look at prices. You can look at prices of like percent of last list date.
Yeah.
And then you can look at it as the percent of the original listing price, right?
So this is comparing what a home listed at versus what it actually sold at.
Yeah.
So what does that
Okay,
show?
so if you go to the original list, original listed price, it's below percent of original price. It's below 100%. It's at 99%.
Okay.
And then the last listed is, I think, right at 100. So they're making price corrections, and then it's right at 100.
So basically, homes on average are selling for what, 1 or 2% under what they listed at.
Yes.
Which is, and I think if I remember right, last summer when homes were going crazy, it was like 103, 104%.
104%, yeah.
So there's what they call it a 5% swing in that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, if you go to the percent original, yeah, it was 104% exactly.
Okay.
So
Interesting. And then let's look at.
and people were pushing really the boundaries there when they were listing houses too. It was like, last month a house sold for $1 million. Your house is just like it. Let's list it for $1,050,000.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were getting the price driven up even higher.
Yeah, well, and this is where like appraisal contingencies are so helpful for buyers because it protects you unless you waive it.
Right. And, do you guys remember when appraisers were saying, okay, we think the house is like worth what you're offering, but we have no comps because it's only, we're going back and like the comps have changed so much.
Yeah.
So they're like literally doing forecast lines of where the market's going.
Yeah.
I mean, that was craziness.
Yeah, that was tough.
Crazy times.
What's happening with average sales price then? Because I think, what was it at 8? We can look here. But again, it's holding pretty. It actually went up in September from August. So So I got the data here in April. In SLO County, median sales price was $867,000, and then it kind of started trailing down. In August was $810,000, and now it's back up to $828,500. So that's it's still when you compare 2022.
Is that for the county?
That's for the county. To 2023 year to date, and you just take the average of 2022 compared to the average of year to date 2023, we're 1.7% under. So I mean, it's basically even.
Yeah. Well, and I think let's transition now to like, again, we've gone over interest rate, we've gone over the inventory, days on market, list price change, and average medium price of a home. What does this mean for buyers and sellers? And maybe let's start with buyers. I think for buyers, because even on that, we had a lot of clients who were like really hoping if interest rates were going to double. I mean, they've gone up so much in the last year. Won't prices come down? Please tell me prices are going to come down. As much as we wish that would happen, we're in such a unique, and we talk about this a lot, but just we can't reiterate it enough, that SLO is such a unique town, that it draws in with the college, it's drawing in people, the people that love to come here in vacation, and then also people that want to retire here.
Yeah.
So again, supply and demand is what's going to drive those prices, and that's what we're seeing play out here. Again, we don't have the magic, crystal ball and what's going to happen, but that's why like the prices are still holding steady, even though interest rates have more than doubled. It's nuts.
Well, and historically, there's never been a correlation between home prices and interest rates.
Yeah.
Like we've never seen that, and we're still not seeing it. Although we saw such a shock to the market that we have seen a little bit of a flattening because of it, but that's it.
Well, and even I think earlier in the year we were talking about potential recessions and all that kind of stuff coming our way, and so when you look at the data over like 75 years or something really long, when you look at areas of recession, actually, except for 2 of them, I think there was 8 over that span. Yeah. Only 2 of them did home values actually decrease, and one was in like 2008, which was
unheard of and
like different. So in every other recession, home values increased. So yeah, you can't draw that correlation that the recessions or even an increase in interest rates that's going to happen necessarily.
So let's talk about that, because we started this off with buyers are having a hard time. They're hesitant. They're having a hard time pulling the trigger. They have to be really clear on why they're making that move. We've got clients closing houses, and I mean, Adam, I'm thinking of one of the clients that you've been working with, and they came into a transaction, right? And it's been kind of a win-win-win for the buyers versus where if we were with them a year ago, it wouldn't have been so. For this example, it's like $1 million. Was it the purchase price on that property?
$1,250,000.
$1,250,000, right? And so the seller has made huge concessions, redoing the roof, addressing a bunch of issues with the home. I mean, up to almost just shy of $100,000 of receipted actual work, right? Mm-hmm. Where if this house was on the market a year and a half ago, we would have had a bidding war for it, for sure. It would have been over, and you wouldn't have gone any of the concessions made. So maybe there's a delta. My guess is that delta is about 150, maybe up to 200 on what the buyer is actually realizing in saved costs.
Yeah.
So now, yes, their payment is higher monthly, right? Mm-hmm. But they just got all this money off of the house.
Yeah.
So that's a buyer who's clear on their why. And I think what's interesting is the seller is wise, because people are like, well, wouldn't the seller just go find a new buyer? The seller is looking at it, and they know their agent's telling them like, hey, a year and a half ago, you would have had 3 to 10, maybe even more, like 7 to 10 offers, right?
Yeah.
And now you're in the situation where you're going to maybe have 1 to 2, and the one that's the best is the one that you need to play ball with, because there's a chance that the buyer is going to walk out.
Yeah. Or if you go back to market and rates go up a bunch, you could be sit on market for a while. So I think that's a great story, to kind of share, where for buyers, you really do, you're able to ask for a few more things. You're not having to name your firstborn child after the sellers to get the house.
And that's not on the stats, right?
Yeah.
So like the negotiations that happen in a transaction where you're getting repairs done and fixing things up, like they're like, oh, it's only not, you're only at 99% of original list. Yeah. But we got $50,000 of repairs.
Yeah.
Like that's not in those stats. And I think it's important that people realize that.
Buyers are still able to get it. We're able to get them in a contract. 3 out of the 4 escrows I have right now, though, were very competitive houses where there were multiple offers on it. And they, some of them, they did have to pay a little bit more. But I mean, there's still houses out there where you're getting 6 offers in on it. And it could be, again, if it's priced appropriately. But for buyers, as Jeff's saying, like if your why is big enough, we can go ahead and get you an escrow on a great place. You can ask for a few things that help set you up for success and a few repairs as you're going into your first year of ownership of that home, to where it really can still be a win for the buyer. They don't feel like they're having to give away the whole farm to make it happen. And for the seller, they're still getting a price, being able to sell the house and, have peace of mind and not letting it just sit on the market.
Yeah, that's really good. And the other thing that's happening a little bit now is there's a lot more talk about some seller financing. It's not going to be the first, but there might be room for a second at a little bit lower interest rate to bring down that payment, and maybe that thing balloons, or it it's like basically got a time frame or a sunset clause on it, so that the buyers can refinance when hopefully rates do come down. We always want to say hopefully. Eventually they probably will. So that you're seeing more discussion about that. I just had a call this morning from a buyer on a property that I have listed, and they're asking about seller financing. And I'm like, hey, this is something we can look at and discuss. If you have some terms that you want to propose to us, we will take it to the seller. So like that is a discussion that's worth having.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Adam.
No, go ahead.
The word for me that comes to mind is just patience with buyers. Because there's such little inventory, and when you have buyers ready to go, it's tough to find a place because there's just not a lot out there. And so I would just say, be prepared that it could take a little while, and it's never too early to start having a conversation with us. Get into a buyer's consult, take a few minutes, get a plan together, because it just can take a little bit of a time. And I think too, the other thing is we've got a lot of cash buyers in our market. And so it's a little bit of a different conversation with a cash buyer, because they obviously don't care about interest rates. They're not financing anything. And so, for a cash buyer, man, it's great. I mean, your sales prices have remained basically stable, so it's not like you're getting a killer deal or anything like that. But I just want to mention we have a lot of cash buyers in the market coming from LA or the Bay Area and all that kind of stuff. So interest rates aren't a thing.
That's funny. I had another call this morning. Today's been a good morning, guys. I have a listing, and we have not gotten an all cash offer, and then all of a sudden they're talking about an all cash offer, 1031 exchange money.
Nice.
Their house is about to close, and like there's still cash out there.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people are also figuring out ways to find cash. There's like people are like, hey, I've got this 401k, I got this other thing. Like, can I borrow against that at a lesser rate? There's ways that people are, strategizing to have that lower interest rate.
One other thing we should probably mention about buyers is, I think some buyers might think, well, I think I'll just I'm not in a hurry, but the desire's there. So I think I'm going to wait till next year, the year after, when rates go down. And, obviously do whatever you want to do. We're just here to provide some context. But I think the thing I would just say is, if and when interest rates go down, they're probably not going to go down to the 3s ever, probably not for a long time.
Yeah.
Like some of the researchers I listen to think we might stabilize around the 5s, somewhere in there. But let's say they do go down. Well, what's going to happen? Affordability is going to go up, and you're going to have a bunch of buyers who are on the fence or out of the game, and they're going to come into the game, right?
Yeah.
And so it's going to create a lot more competition in probably what will be a low inventory market still. So and then you've got appreciation, which might be single digit appreciation percentage wise over the next few years, but you're going to appreciate. You're going to have more competition, which might drive prices up through competitive bidding and all these kinds
Right.
of things. So it's like, do whatever you want. We're just here to be a guide and say what might happen down the road. But the interesting thing too, with the inventory is people thought, well, once rates, the reason that we have low inventory is because sellers aren't selling because I have a 3% interest rate.
Yeah.
Right. So when interest rates go down again, they'll start selling. Well, the data, when you look historically, is exactly the opposite. It's so interesting that more inventory comes through higher interest rates. And I couldn't quite wrap my brain around it until and Altos Research and a bunch of other amazing firms dug into the data. And basically what it's saying is when you have if I have my home at 3% and I can afford it, I'm going to keep it, right? Because it's cheap money relatively. Mm-hmm. So when I buy a home that's at 8% and I want to upgrade or buy another home, my holding costs are so much higher that I'm much more likely to offload that asset in order to get a new one. And so that creates the inventory lift. And so actually with higher inventory that we see, if this lasts a year or two, it could actually bring up inventory, which would be super helpful. So
That's interesting.
really interesting.
Wow,
yeah.
fascinating.
It's kind of, oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say before we jump to, because I think it'd be good to now jump to sellers, but before we do, I think just another point on the buyers that, and Travis, you kind of hit the nail on this, that if you're a buyer right now where you're like, okay, urgency is high and your why is big enough, great. Put together a plan. You still have to be ready. It's still very competitive for those really good properties,
Right.
and they're going to go quick if they're priced right.
Yep.
And so, let's come up with a plan. Let's make sure you've got pre-approval, all your ducks in a row. So when that house comes up, you can pull the trigger. Mm-hmm. If you're a buyer that's reluctant right now, I would still encourage you to kind of do the process and the work of being like, what is our why? What would be something that we'd want to like kind of move on? So you can see if that's a confident yes or no. And if it is a like, yes, I think so, urgency isn't super high, but you don't want to feel rushed, you're a little apprehensive about the market, look for houses that have been on the market for more than 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Those are sellers that are becoming more negotiable and might give you more time where you don't have to be in a bidding war. Maybe that stresses you out. There are still houses out there where they're, maybe they weren't priced appropriately, and we've been able to help get other buyers into them with terms that meet their needs a little bit easier. And so really over 2 weeks in this market, we're seeing sellers starting to become negotiable.
Yeah, that's right. Good.
Yeah. So going to the sellers thing, I think that's a great segue. So sellers, it's like when we're talking to our sellers, we're saying, hey, look, you want to price competitively. You want to be at market or even just a tad below. And the data that we've been talking about shows it's like, hey, you're going to be on market a long time if you overprice your home.
Yeah.
So let's really look at those features and benefits of your house, see what the value is. Let's really dig into it. Let's really spend some time looking at the comparables. We can't afford to get it wrong.
Well, until I love how you talk to sellers about what happens when you price high? You're going to sit on the market for a while and then you have to do reductions. And the data is so clear that, homes that have price reductions take 2 to 4 times longer to sell. And then the days on market accumulate. Start thinking, what's wrong with this place? So we know that story. But I love how you phrase this with sellers when you talk about why. Let's say we price it low and it's too low.
It's too low. We price it too low. Well, the market will tell us.
Yeah.
Because we're going to get so much buyer interest. We priced it too low, and it'll drive the
market
price
will correct.
It corrects it. It corrects me.
Yeah.
Because like, hey, Jeff priced this too low, and now we're going to correct it, and we're going to push it typically above where the market would be.
Yeah.
So it's like I love pricing low. I mean, if I sell my house today, you're like, hey, Jeff, go sell your house. I'm going to take whatever value it's at, and then I'm going to reduce it by 50 to 100K and list it for that amount. And they're like, wait, aren't you leaving money on the table, Jeff? Nope, not leaving $1 on the table. Matter of fact, I'm going to get more, and I'm probably not going to have to do any repairs, and I'm going to get all the terms I want with the time frames I want, and I'm not going to be showing it for 5 weekends. I'm going to be showing it for 1 weekend, and it's done.
Yeah. It's really tough to get sellers. When you have a house that they want to list it for $1 million, and it's worth 900, that's like the seller thinks, well, I'm losing money. It's like, no, you were never going to get that. The market doesn't support it. It's not real money.
It's fake money.
It's COVID money.
It's
COVID dollars. COVID bucks. It's not real money.
Yeah.
So that's why we do these consults up front and get really clear on that stuff.
Well, and it's so painful because like I just had one up in Paso that I was talking to this gentleman, really nice guy, and his neighbors and others were like, your house is worth 1.8. And I'm like, dude, your house is worth 1.25.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm saying it as nicely as possible with as much data to support it. And all in all, like, that house is worth that. And, you know, maybe he chooses not to list the property with that information, which is the right thing to do. Is like, don't go through the headache if it's not worth it for you. Or maybe he chooses to list with a different agent at 1.8, or maybe he chooses to list with me at 1.25. But if he lists with me at 1.25, I guarantee you will get that 1.25. Like, that's going to happen.
Yes.
Right? Or he's going to be on the market for a long period, and it's just going to be not fun.
Well, that's the thing. Do you want to list your home or do you want to sell your home?
I mean, it's just going to be it's going to be bad.
Yeah.
So there's like kind of that tale of two markets, like we like to talk about. You know, there's the market that's moving and selling, and there's the market that's doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And what's kind of interesting though in this market, you will have a well-priced home, and if there's any kind of like blatant issues with it, it deters a lot of buyers, right? So it's like, hey, that outbuilding wasn't permitted.
Too soon, Jeff.
It wasn't permitted. Well, people are like, no,
like
I want turnkey. I want something that's move-in ready. I want something that I don't have to do a bunch of work to. And buyers are being more picky, rightfully so.
They're not desperate. They're not. Yeah, it's even though there's low inventory, they're not gonna.
If I'm gonna have this monthly payment,
then
I want what I want.
Right.
I'm not gonna settle. I'm not just trying to get a house. It's not like it's not the gold rush or the land rush, right? We had the land rush, you know. It felt like very similar. It's like everybody's just trying to get land, get something, get some kind of property. That's not the case right now.
Yeah.
It's like specific criteria of what they want. And then we help them hone that in, like zero in. Went to the air show yesterday. It was like phenomenal how these guys can control exactly where their missiles are going to go and everything's insane, right? But we help people do that when they're buying a property. And they hone in on what they want. And then we're like, let's get you that. And we will wait till we find the exact right property.
Yeah.
We're not going to compromise. Mm-hmm. And there are a few things where we have like, that's a few of the things. You're not going to get everything you want. But the key, most important things, we're going to make sure you get that.
Yeah. So good. So kind of just to summarize maybe what we're saying on the seller front with where interest rates are at, yes, they are higher. They're still high, but due to inventory being lower, again, if your Y is big enough, like it's still a good time to go ahead and sell, even though it's not summertime when, yes, there might be more buyers looking to move during summertime. But because inventory is low, it can still be a good time for you to go ahead and sell your property. But your Y has to be big enough, and then thinking through those next steps of what does your replacement property look like if you don't already have that lined up.
That's good, Adam.
Yep.
Now, if you're a seller in this market and you have an FHA or VA loan and you want to sell your house, give us a call. We have a strategy that will blow your mind, getting you top dollar. It'll be fantastic. It'll drive tons of interest to your property. So if you originated with a VA or FHA loan, I want to talk to you.
You hear that?
Yes.
Call us.
Little
teaser. We'll have to do a whole episode on that one.
Yes, we will.
Well, boys.
Anything else
good.
from market update?
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm really interested to see what happens over the rest of the year.
It'll be good.
So
yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.